Hey everybody, Dian Griesel here, and I am so excited about my guest today. You might be able to see her over there already, Aldara Ortega. And she is a multifaceted, creative human being. I met her on a modeling job, thanks to Wilhelmina Models, where we're both represented here in New York. But that's where we originally met. Thank you, Ginny Conquest. And, and then she really helped me out that day because she is a model who's been around a long time. But at some point, and we're going to learn exactly when, she decided to flip her camera around onto other people and explore the most fascinating form of art I have seen in photography, which is underwater photography of spectacular models in these cool outfits. It's just beyond your imagination if you haven't seen it. So, hello, Aldara. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So, let's start off with modeling first. When did you start modeling?
I started modeling when I was 18. I got scouted playing tennis. My brother, who's 4 years younger, used to play with another little kid, and the mom was one of the bookers of one of the largest model agencies in Madrid. So that's where I got scouted and asked to come in and to see if I would be interested in becoming a model.
Oh, wow. And so you've been modeling for a while. And
Yes.
you've done all kinds of campaigns, right? You do all kinds of work?
Yes, beauty, cosmetics, hair, advertisement, clothing, uh, all kind of products where they need a live mannequin. You name it.
Well, you've got the body and the face for it, for sure, to brighten up any campaign. Now, I'm curious, at some point, you took your camera and turned it towards other subjects. When did you start this photography journey?
Well, photography, I started when I studied fashion design. I studied fashion design in Spain for 4 years, and I took a darkroom photography classes for 2 years. But then I kind of parked it, and it was when I moved to New York and I lost access to the painting studio that I was just using to create art, because it was when I moved to New York that I started creating art. I have always been a very creative person, and with fashion design, I got to create with fabrics in a different capacity. But when I moved to the States, I kind of stopped that creative side of me. And when I moved to New York, I was looking for an outlet to create and to access just that part of me that was felt very dormant. And also, New York is a place that can be very chaotic, and I think art was an escape for me. So I lost access to a painting studio that I was using, which was basically I subletted a room, a closet room, because I have no windows in New York City, and the loft that where that room was in belonged to a painter. And I told them, I will catalog your work and clean your atelier and organize all your pieces, all your paintings, everything in exchange of painting classes. And that's when my journey started. And my photography came
Oh,
shortly.
yeah. I never knew about this painting side. What kind of paintings did you do?
So I started, I always liked to do oil paintings, and I started in Spain, but very much as a hobby. But the painting part of it has a very big influence on my photography. And I'll tell you why, because in my photography is not just the photo, but the editing process. Uh, it's where my style comes in. And I work the picture almost as a painter would work his canvas. So I work in sections, and I mute some areas, I enhance some other. I would change the vibrancy, the saturation. I will pick only the reds and enhance them. I will mute the blues. And I work in sections, but it's very much almost like the photo is, yes, the image, but it also is like a coloring book, like I will touch individual pieces, and the actual finished product will look nothing like the picture itself. And it's a lot of the editing style that doesn't necessarily mean retouching, but like color correcting, color enhancing, and that's a lot from where my style comes from.
It's so interesting, and you, as someone who's been very successfully in modeling, can relate to. When I didn't go on a set until I was 56. And I remember when you start, you think, oh, anyone can be a photographer. You've heard that enough. You look at people's iPhones, everyone thinks they're a photographer. And then you realize everyone can't be a good photographer. There's a huge difference, and it's in the styles. And now I could look at work from different photographers and name which photographer took those pictures. Because it's like a thumbprint. Photography is a personality that the photographer brings that's so unique to them.
Yeah, definitely. It's not only the way that you capture the image, but it's also the treatment of how you use light. First, you use light when taking the picture, and then how you use the light when enhancing the image, or color correcting it, or color grading the image to express whatever it is that you want to your viewer or the people to feel.
Yeah. Okay, so at some point you took all this painting work and you said, now I'm going to start shooting pictures, but you didn't just start shooting any kind of picture. You started to shoot a very complicated style of a photo.
Yes. So when I moved to New York and I came into this artist loft and I started my painting journey, I was very much focused on painting birds. There was something that painting birds brought me a lot of sense of peace, freedom, and when I lost access to this, to paint in the studio, I moved from my closet room to subletting in the living room of a model friend of mine. Yes, it's been a hustle. And she lived in a building that had a swimming pool. So much of my day was occupied swimming. And in that swimming process, the swimming pool had skylight. And when I swam, I felt that the noise from the city. I just moved to New York and to stay. So I was a little bit overwhelmed, the noise, the chaos. So whenever I went to the pool to swim, it was such a feeling of ease and liberation. And in that process, I started to study how light reacted in my skin, how light moved in the pool floor, the bubbles rippling around my fingers, and I started to take that as a concept. I'm like, how can I take this concept, this light, this feeling? Mostly it was the feeling that I felt when I was submerged outside of the water. So I thought about doing specific paintings that involved water, whether it was like water embodies, just water itself, images of bubbles. And in that process, I was doing a lot of research on the internet, but then I wanted the pictures to be mine. I didn't want to grab other people's material. So I bought a little point and shoot in a housing, And that's how my underwater photography started. I got my diving certification while scuba diving certification while living in New York. And every time I came to Miami, I completed a section of it and I did my open water. And that's when I started to take my first atmospheric pictures. And then every time I went on a modeling trip, I would take my camera with me. And my second underwater series was done with my first better camera that I bought that I didn't have the housing yet. So I used a cookie jar, humongous cookie jar. This is one of my oldest series is called the Liquid Desert, and it's all these shadows that were casted onto this pool. We were shooting in a location in Los Angeles, and no, a known photographer's house who they used to rent it out for a lot of photo shoots and and productions of all kinds. And that's how I started photographing. That was the first exhibition of photography that I did of my underwater photography because I had played with on land photography, but I really felt I was onto something when I did that. And from there, I just continued exploring and experimenting. And then that year after, I went to Portugal. And at that time, I was doing enhancement in the computer, but I was also printing my pictures out, mounting them in a board, and painting over them. But when I went to Portugal, I did my first photo shoot with a friend of mine. And when I started working on the image, I thought the images were so good that they needed no paint on top of them, no further. Just like the color correction that I added made it so special because the light that I was capturing was so special. Bear in mind, this was a little point and shoot. So it is a thing that they,
A point and shoot?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I keep all those little cameras as memorabilia because I intend to get famous one day through
You
my
know,
art.
I'm genuinely surprised your work isn't showcased all over the world because every time I see one of those pictures and I see that moment you capture the model, the swimmer moving in that water and the flow of the hair, the flow of whatever clothing you've got on them or not. You know, the you know, the everything. It's just it's ethereal. It reminds me of like the heavens, but you're in water.
Yes, it can be very ethereal. It has a, well, what I try to bring with my work is that feeling of weightlessness, of liberation, of just of wonder of this, almost wonder of this underwater world, but a portal to a feeling. Because in my photography, I barely use fashion. I use fabrics. I barely show the face. It's mostly about the emotion of the body. I use a lot of the underwater surface reflection as part of the composition, and a lot of that motion and reflection and refraction are very important. The one that is projected into the skin or projected onto the either ocean floor or ocean pool. So everything together creates that like composition. Like, and I try to include all that, and also the element of surprise because I'm working with fabrics flowing, uh, winds that are changing, and it changes the ripples in the water, the sun, the non-sun. All these things are elements that I cannot control fully, and they become part of the surprise. So sometimes when I take pictures, I really don't know I can get there with a concept, but I don't really know what I'm going to get on the other side. And it's always very pleasing because it's always a great a great, most of the times, if I have good visibility, it's a great surprise. I'm like, wow.
I can imagine because just plain shooting outside, the minute a cloud comes overhead, it changes everything. The light is, and if it's a rain cloud, then it really changes everything. The density of those clouds. And with what you're doing, you're adding, the wind factor. And it's not just the wind on hair, who doesn't love some wind in their hair? But you're adding the wind on water, which is creating waves or ripples or bubbles. It's just fascinating to me. It's why I really wanted to speak with you about it, because I think it's so unusual. Every time I see one of your pictures, I call them scroll stopping. I have to stop scrolling. I have to sit there and just look at it and study it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad they caused that impression. Some of them are quite mesmerizing. They're very, because people don't know, and a lot of the times people tell me, "Oh, is this a painting? Is this a picture?" And very intuitively, people call it paintings. Oh, I love this painting of yours. I want the red painting. Like, I stopped correcting them because I'm like, yeah, it can be. I called it. This is the name that I give it. I give it a, when my process that I told you of editing, I call it painting with light. So it's truly light that you're using, even though it's already captured. I am painting the light that is already there. So I call it painting with light. I kind of named it that way.
Wow. Do you have all kinds of galleries coming after you, trying to represent you?
I have a gallery in New York, and I'm in the process of looking for more suitable galleries. It's always a thing to find a gallery that is willing to take you to the art fairs. I have exhibited in several countries, several art fairs, and you want to find, well, I want to find the right alignment. So right now I'm in the process here in Miami. Haven't been represented in Miami yet, but I'm in the process of looking for like a good match.
Very nice. I'm going to be thinking about that now. Who to introduce you to? And now you do other kinds of photography as well?
So I have taken my personal craft, which is the underwater fine art photography, and I started to, because I got so many people interested in wanting to be photographed like this, that I actually commissioned myself to be able to offer this work for other people. Let's say that you would want it to be, you love my work, but you don't, because I mostly photograph women, you would like yourself on the wall. You don't want a picture of another woman. You want your own picture. And I can do that with my style, my expertise. I can make you the muse of your own artwork. So this is a line of work that I started to create when I moved here to Miami. So I had easier access to water. I can go to the ocean. There's a lot of swimming pools. And I can photograph year round because the weather is lovely here.
Right. Now, do you have a preference, or is there a time you would choose, let's say, the ocean versus a pool?
The ocean, for it to be optimal conditions, has to be non-stirred and very clean, very have a lot of visibility. And that in Miami sometimes can be a little challenging. Sometimes you can make it happen, but it's nutrient dense, and it's normally stirred. So Miami sometimes it can be challenging, but places like Bahamas, British Virgin Islands, closer to Key West, sometimes the water kind of gets that visibility. That is the best. Also, the ocean floor is clearer, whiter, so it reflects the light. So because when you are submerged, you lose so much light just by going in like half a meter you are just losing so much light. And I particularly photograph very close to the surface because I like those underwater surface reflections.
Oh my gosh. Now, what kind of camera are you doing to do all this now? And how's the camera protected? I'm trying to picture any of this.
Yeah, so I work with Canon. I started with Canon and I continue. I have all my Canon lenses and now I work with Canon mirrorless.
Are you? They should.
Let's see if this interview can give me a sponsorship. And then I have a housing for it. So it is quite an apparatus. It's quite heavy and not easy to carry around. I always try to bring it with me in trips in my carry-on so I wouldn't like draw attention. It's like, no, this is so light. But yeah, it's quite a thing. And yeah, and I always have to
You have
carry
to
up.
custom make that? Did you
Yeah,
custom make that?
no, they make it. I used two brands, so I use Canon and Canon lenses, and then another brand is called Lite, which is they make it for each model of the camera. There is several good housings, and some of them are meant to that you can take very deep and withhold the pressure that comes with being underwater.
Now,
But I
are
guess.
you wearing full scuba gear when you do this? How are you doing it?
No, I hold my breath. And the reason why I hold my breath is because I normally photographing someone and they are not in scuba gear. So it's easier to communicate with my muse or my subject when we go up and down. I'm like, oh, okay, so how about you do this movement, or how about you gaze towards the light, or pretend that you're doing this kind of motion towards the surface. And with the scuba gear, it just gets too complicated. So in 2017, I got my free diving certification while I was in Bali in order to be able to control my breathing underwater, hold my breath for longer times, and do it in a safe way. So, in last year for my birthday, I gifted myself another certification from Patty. So I have two free diving certifications, and I have to say I can't. I'm a little rusty, and every time I'm going to photograph, I'm like, the first 10 minutes I feel like I'm, "Ugh," and then you keep on getting used to being underwater, relaxing into it, and it's a lot of it's very relaxing, even though people at the beginning could think otherwise. Holding
Yeah.
your breath is something that allows you to control your mind. So the whole process becomes quite meditative.
Oh my goodness. How do you get the models or the muses to relax when they're, I mean, someone could say, oh, I wanted to get photographed underwater, and then the thought versus the actual doing are very different.
Well, there is there is a training that has to happen with their face, because everyone when they go underwater they tend to hold water in their cheeks. They squinch their face, and there's a moment that like you have to train them to relax their face, and okay, let's go down, relax your face, hold a little bit of air bubbles in your nose, or blow a constant stream of air bubbles, and that's a little process on itself. And then the movement is when it comes a little bit more uh, complex, and this is where a different part of my craft comes in, which is guiding people. Because I've been a model for such a long time, I know how to be on being photographed. So I know what it feels to be on that side, and and I know how good it feels to be guided with kindness, with flow, in an empowering way. Everyone that photographs with me leaves very empowered because I make sure to make them feel very good. There's something so beautiful to keep encouraging the person. Oh, this looks great, even if you think it could be better. There's always a better outcome when you empower someone versus when you're like, oh no, you're not doing that good. I would always say, I love that, but let's change a few things. Let's do the hand a little different. Let's do this motion with your hair, so I am very aware to choose my words and how I am directing the person that I'm photographing for to bring the best out of them.
You know, that's really fascinating what you're saying, because a few years ago, I trademarked the concept. I'm trained in hypnotherapy, photo hypnotherapy, because if you could get someone to relax and assure them they were beautiful, they were doing a great job, life is going fine for them, when they were relaxed, you could get spectacular pictures. And the person would walk out saying, I have no idea what just happened, but I feel so good. So you're really doing that with how you're taking your pictures.
Yes, it definitely it truly makes a difference when the person feels good. I'm sure you have felt it on your end when the photographer makes you feel great, and you just feel leave the job feeling great, feeling versus you work with a photographer that is grumpy, that has been not having the best day, that has been bossing and like being mean to their crew.
Yeah.
It's like you can't wait to get out of there. So I want to be the first photographer. I want to be the photographer that, and also the artist that brings that beautiful vision to life, but making others feel wonderful, or like at least how I would love to be treated.
Yeah. And I have no doubt you do that very well. And it is a high. It's an incredible. I always say when I've had a day with a great photographer, I wish the world could experience just that once, because it changes your perspective on, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about others, how you feel interconnected. It's truly magical.
Yes, no,
And
definitely.
there's no doubt you're doing that extremely well based on your lifetime of being in front of the camera, and then your painting artistry, and then the fact that, no matter how comfortable someone is with water, it's still unnerving to know posing can get unnerving no matter what. So now you're thinking of, wait a second, I'm posing, I'm holding my breath, I'm listening to the photographer, I'm making sure I don't have chipmunk cheeks, filled with water or air, I don't want my picture to look like,
100%. Yes.
It's
Yes.
fascinating. Wow. What are your next adventures that we're going to be seeing, Aldara?
My next adventure is I'm going to Spain and I'm going to take my all my gear. Last time that I'm gonna be traveling in a catamaran for a week, and last time that I did this, I took all my gear as well. And one of the days that I was out, I gifted some friends of all my girlfriends, which were I both of basically all girls except one man. I gifted them a photo shoot together, and I created one of my series that I call Greek Muses, which is basically my friends, and I gave them to them as a present, and they loved it so much. And I told them, look, if I love these pictures. I love the story behind it. You know, it's just the story of women coming together. It's my close female friends. It's a very empowering community. Everyone is so different, and but everyone it elevates each other in such a way, which I found such a big plus coming here to Miami, and that's I think one of the reasons why I stayed, because I found my tribe, my women tribe, and I told them, look, these two came out amazing. If you all give me permission, I would love to turn this into art, and this is one of my fine art series that can be purchased.
Oh my goodness. Well, these episodes always go too fast, but I have loved learning more about you, your artistry, your talent, your thought processes, your developmental processes, how you take these ideas into fruition. It's just fantastic. And Aldara, there will be all kinds of links, so you can follow Aldara Ortega, and you can follow her on Instagram. You can go see where she posts her images. They're beautiful. And you may want to call her for your own highly incredible experience of being photographed underneath as a muse underwater, you know, for the gods of, let's see, Neptune and Triton and all those gods that burst from the water. So thank you very much, Aldara. Don't go anywhere. Any last thoughts for everyone?
Oh, I'm just so happy to be here and have had this opportunity. This is the first time I'm being interviewed for a podcast, and you are so wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, as are you. I'm Dian Griesel. This has been the Silver Disobedience Perception Dynamics podcast. My guest is Aldara Ortega. She's a model, she's a fine art photographer, a painter, just an all-around creative and cool person. And like I said, all kinds of links to follow her below. Please do hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time.